Everybody, this is Tony with Class Eagles. I hope you're having a great day. Something that I talk with coaches a lot about in terms of helping their teams improve in certain areas is how they're setting up their training sessions. Often, coaches, rightly come into a training session wanting to improve on certain areas of the game, like building at the back, changing the point of attack, maybe crossing and finishing. There's a lot of different areas that coaches head into training helping wanting to help their players and their teams improve in. And one thing I ask coaches do is think about how they're setting up their training sessions to help their teams get better in those areas. And a lot of times coaches think about putting players in the scenarios and the positions that exactly what they would be doing in the game. If they're building out of the back, they're setting the players up and their activities are built around that. If they're crossing and finishing, their activities are around the goal, the ball being played wide, ball being served in, and players in the middle trying to get on the end of it, and kind of coaching within those contexts, which is fantastic. That's part of what is needed for players to improve in that area. But what tends to get skipped at times is what are the fundamental kind of technical skills and building blocks that players need to be able to do those things. Take the crossing and finishing, for example. A lot of times players are put in activities where they're immediately crossing and trying to finish off a cross, but from a technical standpoint, they don't have the ability yet to really serve a ball in, or they really struggle on how to, deal with a ball out of the air. So something I ask coaches to do with the training sessions is start small. Think about what the players need to be able to do individually and feel very confident in to be able to do what you're asking them to do and improve in those areas. So if we're talking about crossing and finishing, how much time or how are your activities set up that players are getting a lot of opportunities to work on how they drive a ball in or serve a ball in. If in a training session they only maybe personally get to do it once or twice, or some players don't get to do it at all, then we're missing a huge piece in helping our players improve there. If you spend more time with your players, helping them understand how to technically and properly strike a ball and serve a ball in, then their crossing and serving is going to get better, but they need those repetitions. They need the opportunities to do it. So sometimes we get too big in our training sessions too early, and our players aren't getting enough opportunity just to work on the technique and how to do it. And, on the other side of that, dealing with the ball out of the air that's coming to them. Most players really struggle, if you watch a lot of games, on getting on the end of crosses. And a lot of it is because they don't know how to deal with the ball out of the air. So in your training sessions, how much time is being spent on that? For a player knowing how to properly take a ball and time a ball out of the air, if they're old enough with their head, volleying it, settling it down, and then finishing. If you're working on just crossing and finishing, a player might only get one or two balls served at them, and that's not nearly enough repetition or practice or practice in a controlled environment to work on the necessary technical skills to be able to be successful there. So when you're setting up your training sessions, the coaches really need to spend more time giving players the opportunity to get a lot of opportunities working on the building blocks and the fundamental skills that are required to have successful in those bigger area concepts within a game. Because most likely, if your players can all on average, strike a ball pretty well, serve a ball in, and they all are very confident in their ability to play a ball out of the air, then most likely your team overall will have a lot more success in their ability to cross and finish off those crosses. And then if your players have that technical fundamental skills required to do it, then in your training sessions, when you get larger and your setup and your activities and you're talking about working on crossing and finishing, you can focus more on the tactical side and the nuances of the game that are required to have more success, to create opportunities to get crosses in the box, and then your timing of your runs and your movements in the box that create space for yourself to get on the end of the crosses. But it's very hard to talk about those things or work on those things if technically and fundamentally the players just can't do what you're asking them to do on the surface and at the very basic level. So something to think about as you're planning your training sessions, kind of moving forward, that you might have a larger area that you're looking to work on with your team, but make sure that your players are able to do the fundamental skills required to have success in those areas.